Okay, back for another installment. I want to talk more about this prelude from the first cello suite. In the last video, I focused on the lower neighbor tone figure that I think is worth paying attention to. In this video, I'm going to spend some time talking about the way Bach displaces octaves, especially when he's running through scales. These are usually transitional moments in pieces, and he does it all the time. It's not just in this piece, but there's a couple of spots that I think highlight it, so I want to point it out. I'm going to play from the beginning of the piece up to about measure 9 because measure 9 is one of the spots I want to talk about. And then later on in the piece, there's a few measures that I think are worth noting. So here we go from the beginning. Okay, and then I'm going to jump ahead, and it's in the end of measure 28, 29, 28 through like measure 30. That's what I want to focus on, but I'll just to get it in your ear, we'll jump over here to the beginning of 26, and here we go. Okay, and I'll stop it there. Again, if you're not familiar with this piece, please check it out. It's really cool. All right, now jump over here to measure 9 and talk about how he displaces octaves when he's running through scales. If you look at measure 9, you start seeing these descending scale figures, but he leaps up a number of times. And so I'll start here at the end of the first beat on this E. You get this descending figure. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes. And then he ends here on A. The next note in the scale, if you continue down, would be the note G, right? But he doesn't just continue down. What he does is he leaps up a seventh to land on the G, and then he continues down 3 notes, and then he does a similar thing again. He's on the E here, and then he leaps up a seventh to D. Instead of just stepping down a step, he jumps up a seventh, and then he runs a scale, continues to run the scale down. Let's go over here. And here, a similar thing happens, but instead of jumping up a seventh, here he just jumps up an octave, D up to D. But you can see now he's out of that scale transitional figure stuff. He starts doing something else, okay? So he does this all the time. It's like the scale could just continue, but he doesn't do that. He jumps up, usually a seventh. He can go the other way too. He can jump down. More often, I think you see him jumping up to continue a scale passage. But really, this measure, the bulk of this measure, is just one long continuous scale. Why does he do this? Well, there's a few reasons. I think one thing is just the range of the instrument. You run out of notes. If in this scale, starting here where I'm marking, if he just continued down, he's not going to have enough notes. He's got to jump up at some point, okay? Also, when you consider that instruments usually don't sound their best at their extreme ranges, right? Usually a singer doesn't sing their best notes, their highest notes, and also their lowest notes, right? Piano, same thing. Most instruments are like this. Their best notes are not at the end of the ranges, it's somewhere in the middle. There's a practical consideration here that Bach is trying to make the instrument sound as good as he can. And he does this all the time. I want to point one other spot out. But before I do that, I should mention this. This figure I just marked all up. There's some symmetry too with the numbers of notes. If you look here, there's 5 notes, descending scale, then 3, then look here, 5, and then on the next line, 3. So you get this 5-3, 5-3 thing happening. I think it's worth paying attention to. It's, something Bach does a lot. All right. And then in measures, the end of measure 28, 29, and 30, this is also a spot he displaces octaves. And beginning here at the end of measure 28, you have this long descending scale of, looks like 8 notes total. And then he jumps up again to middle C. This note here, right, it's D. And if the scale continued down, you would end up on the low C down here, which happens to be the lowest note of the cello. He could do this, but the scale continues, right? If he doesn't jump up at some point, he's going to run out of notes. The instrument's not going to allow him to continue the music in the way he wants to go. So he has to jump up, and here he doesn't just jump up a seventh, he jumps up well over an octave, and the interval is a seventh, but he's jumping up beyond the octave. Now, here, same thing, right? Here's a D. The next note in the scale would be here, which is C, but he jumps up again an octave, continues down, and you get the idea, right? He's on C here from the previous line. He could continue to the B, down a step, but he doesn't. He jumps up an octave, or a seventh, and then goes all the way down here. And now we're on the B, and the next note would be here, which is A, but he doesn't use that A. He jumps up again an octave to continue the scale down. And this is not something that you see just in this prelude. Bach does it consistently. It's a device that he uses, and I think it's worth pointing out. Again, in my mind, two reasons. It's a practical consideration for the instrument, right, whatever he's using. It doesn't have enough notes, and so he's got to jump up at some point to keep the notes in the range. And also, most of the time, instruments don't sound their best in their extreme ranges, their highest or lowest notes. It's good to keep them in the middle a lot of times. All right, that's all for now, and I'll see you next time.